What is up, everybody, and welcome to the Mind, Body, and Pockets podcast, where we take lessons learned from people in the marching arts community to help you level up your life. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Paula. And on this podcast, we're going to get to know the individuals who make up the marching arts community. They'll share their experiences in and out of the activity and the mental, physical, and financial lessons they've learned along the way.
And this episode is all about the body. Today's guest was born in the Philippines and moved to San Francisco at the age of 9. His years of extensive training in a variety of dance styles, as well as his color guard experience, makes him one of the most sought-after choreographers in the country.
This man was a lead performer in the Tony and Emmy award-winning show Blast, where he toured North America, Europe, and Asia. Years later, he returned to the company as choreographer for the new show Blast, the Music of Disney, which toured all over Japan in 2017 and 2019. He's also appeared in the blockbuster movie Rent and is the co-founder of Tay Talent Agency, which casts dancers for films including Step Up 4 and Rock of Ages.
He's performed on so many stages, including the Latin Grammys, the Teen Choice Awards, and the Latin Billboard Awards, dancing for recording artists such as Ricky Martin, Evie Queen, Macy Gray, and Wisin y Yandel, just to name a few.
He's a former member of the Blue Devils Drum and Bugle Corps and has worked as a choreographer for some of DCI's elite, including Carolina Crown, the Bluecoats, the Cadets, and the Santa Clara Vanguard. On top of that, he's a 2-time WGI gold medalist and has performed with the Blue Devils, Fantasia, and the San Jose Raiders. He's also worked with multiple winter guards, including Braddock Independent, Paramount World, and West Broward High School.
His latest creation, The Breakdown Camp, teaches movement and dance to people all over the country. We're extremely excited to have him on the podcast, the one, the only, Mr. Michael Rosales. Michael, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, guys. That was quite an intro. I almost impressed myself.
Right?
It's all you, man. We're just reading the stuff you've done, and that's just the tip of the iceberg,
Yep.
man. If we really went deep, who knows how long that intro would actually
Exactly.
be.
We had to pick and choose.
Thank you. Like it's nice to kind of hear that and to be reminded that, like, okay, maybe I have done some stuff. I think especially like these days that we're living in, you just kind of question everything. I know me personally, there's so many mornings where I go to my mirror and be like, be nice today. I have to tell myself to be nice today. But thank you for having me. I'm so excited for this. I'm so excited for you guys to do this. Congratulations. I think this is a great platform. And I love that you're using your network and the virtual world to kind of create something that will offer a service and
Absolutely.
kind of stay connected to the people out there. So I'm honored to be here with you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
that really means a
Michael.
lot.
Absolutely.
Sweet. So the very beginning, we want to just talk about your upbringing in the Philippines. What part of the Philippines was it? What was that like? And do you remember the transition over to the U.S.?
Yeah. Well, I was born and I was raised or grew up in Manila. And when you kind of asked me about that question, it was kind of fun to kind of go back to memory lane. Again, these are things that we don't normally think about. And so I just remember how much joy I had, growing up. My mom is the oldest of 10 kids,
Wow.
so I had aunts and uncles always,
Wow.
around. I have cousins always running around. When I go and visit Philippines, I'm meeting cousins for the first time and, like nieces and nephews. And I just remember culturally, there was just a lot of laughter, a lot of singing, a lot of dancing, a lot of being goofy and always joking with each other. And everything was led up to a laugh or a joke. Even when it was like a serious conversation, I remember being a kid and everyone was always laughing.
That's beautiful.
So that's the main thing I kind of like I remember when I think about growing up in Philippines. I moved to San Francisco when I was 9 years old, and that was hard, because again, it's a completely different culture. I didn't know what to expect. I thought I was coming to America and running into horses and carriages and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Smack dab in the
So-
city. Boom.
Not the Bay Area.
I know.
No horse and carriage there.
None there. Yeah. But luckily, when I was going to school, we spoke a lot of English. So the language wasn't too big of a barrier for me. I miss all the craziness and the laughter and this being surrounded by so much family because we're first generation here.
That's awesome.
Wow. So that must have been tough coming over and leaving a lot of that family behind. I'm sure that was not an easy thing to do.
No, no, it wasn't. Especially like my best friend was my neighbor in Philippines, or
Oh,
next door neighbor. So
Hmm.
leaving all that behind was tough. But I think I was still young enough to be able to kind of adjust.
Right. Yeah, kids are really resilient when it comes to things like
yeah,
that.
absolutely.
So how did you get into dance, and what was the scene like there in the Bay Area at the time?
How I got to dance? Well, actually, I started getting into dance in high school. I think, Eddie, I've told you before, I was in band. I played trumpet terribly for about 7 years.
That's a good trivia
um,
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
You
trivia
still
question.
remember your B flat scale?
I Yes, I do. I do. I have a trumpet here, and sometimes I'll play it. I won't let anyone hear it, but I
Okay.
I'm
will
trying to
play
See,
think
it.
of
that is
Um,
some inside
that's an
information
inside
that
scoop.
nobody knows.
Put in
And
the
now,
comments, guys, if you want
hmm
to hear Michael play a B flat scale.
yes, when we
oh
have you back,
my.
you better be practicing because,
Okay, I got it.
yeah.
I got it.
Mhm.
I got to
I'm
get
trying
my
to think
chops
of
back.
what occasion would you be playing that random trumpet in your house?
You got to find the right time. You got to find the right time.
It's
Yeah, so
hilarious.
I was in band for a long time. I was in San Francisco. We moved to Concord out of San Francisco, starting my freshman year of high school. And so I went to Mount Diablo High School out there in Concord. That's where I kind of first time saw what color guard is. And then I kind of jumped on the color guard wagon. My junior year, I joined the winter guard over there. And I think that was my first like introduction into like um, movement where it's like, okay, there's is actually a little bit of technique involved and a little bit of training involved. Of course, we always danced around when we were younger, but I think that was my first introduction to like an organized class. Then from there, I marched my senior year again. And then someone told me I should audition for the Blue Devils. And so after high school, I auditioned for the Blue Devils Winter Guard. That was the last year they had a Winter Guard. I'm going to date myself into 1998. And that was such an amazing experience.
Mm.
Like I learned so much, being around so many like really talented people. And then from there, I started taking classes at DVC.
And what's
And
DVC?
Diablo Valley College. It's
Ah,
out
great.
there. Yeah, it's where like the Blue Devils kind of like spend a little bit of their time. I think that's
Mm.
where they have the family show, and I think they rehearse there
Oh,
sometimes.
cool.
And just took basic classes, jazz, ballet, modern.
Mm.
I took a choreography class, and so that just kind of like fed a lot of my passion.
You're like the jack of all trades. Like you have a lot of knowledge when it comes to those things. I remember seeing you dance for the first time. I'm like, he is all over the spectrum and he can literally do anything. And now it makes a lot of sense of where you got that from.
It was, yeah, just something about movement. When I see movement, I
Mm.
get so intrigued with, oh my gosh, their body's doing that to that piece of music. It was always so intriguing to me, and it still is.
Oh, even the
Uh,
Hmm.
piece of music too. You correlated with that style as well.
oh yeah, yes,
Ah.
absolutely, absolutely. I think the music will talk and your body responds, right?
Yeah,
And
Mm.
I like
so
that.
Quotable.
kind of, and so the more quotable, um, the more I studied, the more I was able to talk to the music. I felt like I
Mm.
can relate to the music better if I studied the movement, the different styles of movement. And then I marched San Jose Raiders in '99. Loved marching there.
Yeah, iconic. Yeah.
Great people. Yeah, great people, great history. I marched Fantasia
Mm.
and in 2000. And then I started booking jobs in California and San Francisco,
Mm.
mostly hip hop based stuff.
Because you've explored so many genres, did you have like a go-to, a favorite?
I think when I was younger, it was definitely more into the pop, hip hop kind of scene, just because that's what you see every day.
Mm.
Hmm.
And that's what kind of got my interest in moving. And then I think as I got older, the intricacies of what the bodies can do naturally made me want to kind of study it. That's in like the jazz and the contemporary and the ballet stuff. But younger, definitely the more hip hop and commercial pop stuff.
Very cool. If I could just go back a little bit. So you said that until your junior year, you did not do color guard. Is that correct? So,
That's correct. Yeah.
so that's, I think, first of all, I think that's incredible because I didn't know that. You know, you look at somebody of your caliber and everything that you've done and continue to do, and you think, man, he must have been doing this his entire life. So I think that's really important for people to hear also, that there's no right or wrong time to start. And you were able to do what you did so quickly, you know, to start your junior year and then, hey, I'm going to be in the Blue Devils now. Oh, I'm going to do Raiders. I'm going to do Fantasia. Like, that's really incredible.
And really quick.
And I just want, you know, people to really take that in.
Absolutely.
Because it just shows that if you're driven, and yes, there's some natural ability there, I think, and some talent, but if you're driven and you have a passion for what you're doing or what you want to do, you can just go full throttle and make your dreams happen. So that really like resonated with me when you said that.
Oh, thank you, Paula. Yeah, I especially at that age, sometimes I would kind of sit there and go, gosh, I wish I was introduced to this when I was 5 or 7 or 9 or 10. But at the same time, now that I look at it, I was learning things way more calculated because I knew I was already playing catch up. So when I would walk into a dance class, I knew I was dancing next to someone that had been dancing since they were 7 years old. And it's a jazz or contemporary class. I knew that. And so knowing that made me completely calculate every move in how I process information. So I felt like I needed to learn twice as fast, if not 3 times, 4 times faster, because every little thing that was natural to this person next to me, I needed to learn still. And so I think that created a different way of learning for me versus, you know, the kids that have been dancing since they're 7 years old. And I see them, you know, because they've learned so much at a young age that when they get to like 16, 17, 18, things are secondary and they're not working as hard to kind of capture or grab onto information. For me, learning that late in the game made me process things faster, and it created those muscles to constantly work in that space.
It felt like you were more ready because you started later, and it almost like you fell in love with band first and then you explored the different realms and then not only caught up but surpassed the group with the same work ethic consistently.
Absolutely. But since we're talking about body, that was the hardest part of it. You know, my body wasn't built to do these crazy things that these other dancers were doing. And so physically, I needed to catch up and I needed to find a way to be able to do these things in a short amount of time and find, I don't want to say shortcuts, but find my way of getting to a certain place and be able to do a certain skill per se.
Yeah.
You feel like flexibility was a hurdle at first, or were you always kind of a flexible person?
Flexibility, I had to like love stretching. I was not that flexible in the beginning, but again, studying how to stretch was really interesting to me too.
And
that's cool. Yeah, see, a lot of people don't do that, really, myself included. I mean, we have our stretches that we do, but to actually really truly understand what and why is important. That's something, you know, as we try to stretch more, I think that's something to think about, to really kind of dive in and start learning a little bit more.
The purpose, yeah. And even as an instructor, that had me just like think of all the times that, you know, there'd be a freshman saxophone player in their junior year, they're like, I want to play mellophone because I want to do drum corps. And us as the band directors or instructors are sometimes hesitant to that kid of like, do we want to mess up your saxophone career? Do we want to? And sometimes you have to cater to the kid, but selfishly, there's almost that like, I don't know if you should make this choice to go to the color guard, Michael? Are you sure you're really good at trumpet? You've been doing this for so many years.
I think he said he wasn't good though. Does that change? I'm just kidding.
I don't know. It just brought me back to those students, you know, that want to make that transition, but sometimes we're just like, I don't know. But then we don't really cater to the kid as much. And I think that's more important than anything, because you might have the next Michael Rosales in your hands, but had you stayed on trumpet?
Yeah, if somebody discouraged you to say, no, you're staying on trumpet, you know?
Who knows
Where
where you'd
would you be?
be? Yeah.
I think that's a good age, you know, in that
Mm.
16, 17 range, even 15, where you start to kind of decide, I like this, I don't like this. Or, you know what I'm saying? For me, I enjoyed playing trumpet, you know, and I say bad, but I think I was decent. I wasn't the lead. It was like second, third chair, maybe. And actually, what's so funny, another trivia, my eighth grade year, I had the big solo, and the song was "Send in the Clowns," you know, which
Really?
is
Wow.
the core song for Santa Clara.
Oh
So
my goodness.
every time I hear "Send in the Clown," it takes me back to that. And my mom still talks about that eighth grade trumpet solo, you know, of "Send in the Clowns."
Wow.
Um, but it was about digressing. It was about that age, you know, 15, 16, where I was like, okay, I'm good at trumpet. I don't see myself being this
Mm-hmm.
incredible musician. You know, my improv was terrible. It wasn't connecting to me,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
but the movement was really interesting. And so I made that, you know, kind of turn.
I
That
love
takes a
that.
lot of faith and confidence in yourself to just shift over to something else after, you know, you're doing trumpet for 7 years, I believe you said, and then all of a sudden, I'm gonna do this now, and that just takes a lot of courage to shift everything into something new. But obviously, it worked out for you, and you know, you're following a dream of yours, a passion. So I think that's really cool.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, I mean, it was fun. I didn't see it as doing something, you know, extraordinary. I just saw it as like, oh, that looks fun.
Mentally, when you got to the Blue Devils indoor, did that feel like something phenomenal? I mean, you only been doing color guard for like a year and a half at that point.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I was surrounded by so many incredible veterans of the
Mm.
activity. That's when I really go into that space of like, watch everything and watch everyone and listen to everything and pay attention to what you're doing. Not only that, like the work ethic, you know, I started to kind of really learn work ethic around those people, and you know, watching Scott create and having the veterans be right there jumping right in was, I remember just being like a kid, like a candy store, like, oh my god, everyone's so amazing. So
That's
yeah.
cool. And when did you make that transition to the drum corps, the Blue Devil drum corps?
Okay. Another fun fact, I had never seen a drum corps before. Didn't know what drum corps was. I mean, I lived in Concord because I went to high school in Mount Diablo, but we had like a little rinky-dink parade band with 30 kids,
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
you know. So, but I didn't know Blue Devils Winter Guard because we had a Winter Guard, so we would see them at local shows. So when I was marching Winter Guard towards the end of the season, a couple of my friends that were I was marching with were like, Michael, you should do summer. I'm like, what summer? You know, and everyone's like, yeah, you should do summer. You know, I think Scott even went like, yeah, you should do summer. I'm like, Scott says I should do summer. I should do summer,
There
whatever
it
the hell
is.
summer is, you know?
They make it
And
sound like a vacation, but
Yeah, you should do
really,
summer.
yeah, yeah, I
um,
should do summer. I'm like, okay. And the first few summer rehearsals were indoor rehearsal. Remember when we used to have like those indoor shows, like theater shows?
Hmm.
mhm.
And so the first, like, I think 2 weeks were theater shows. And
So
so
they
we were
tricked you.
inside.
They
They had
tricked
you
you.
Yeah,
tricked.
we were inside. And so I was like, okay, this is fun. We're learning a dance and we're spinning and it's theatrical and there's characters and all. I was like, this is fun. And then all of a sudden, Scott or TJ goes, you guys, tomorrow we're meeting at Mars. I'm like, what's
Oh.
Excuse me.
Mars? So all my friends were like, oh, don't worry, we'll come pick you up, you know? And then they
Can
picked me
would
up.
you mind? Yeah, go into what Mars is for people that don't know.
Mars is where the drum corps rehearses. It's like in an industrial area, and you're going through like gravel parking lot. I went to high school in Concord, and I had never been to this area of town, you know. And so it's like in the middle of nowhere. You're driving into this, all of a sudden there's this random field, So they pick me up, they take me through this gravel. I'm like, where are we going? I've never been this part of
This is
town.
shady.
Yeah.
And it was like 9 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so like we go into this area and all of a sudden there's people with horns, lots of them. There was a feel. I'm like, what is happening? And so that was like, and then we had to like learn drill and sets and stuff like that. It was just downhill from there. It was like, for
Wow.
me, it was a culture shock. Everything was,
Mm.
I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And then, all of a sudden it was like, okay, you guys need sleeping bags. We're going to go on a tour. Like, didn't
So
know
Wow.
you
anything
really had
about
no
that either.
idea what was happening.
No
Like
idea.
even your
I was
marching
just
band.
kind of,
Wow, it was like a parade band, not even like a learn drill kind of band.
yeah, we
Wow.
marched down the street. Yeah.
Wow. You learned how to like re-drill and march drill all at the Blue Devils. That's incredible.
Yeah. Well, I hope TJ doesn't learn this because I cheated all my drill notes. So, but
Uh-oh.
yeah, I mean, it was a big culture shock. I loved performing on the field, though. I loved the live music. I loved the live percussion. I loved being next to them and in front of them. But to me, that lifestyle was just really, I was not mentally prepared for that. And so I only did one season, but I kept marching. I kept doing winter. I marched San Jose Raiders, in 99. I marched Fantasia in 2000.
Wow. That's incredible.
Do you feel like if you would have known a little bit more about what you're getting yourself into, do you think that might have changed your outcome of wanting to return, or you were just kind of more of an indoor kind of guy?
Maybe if I would have known what I was getting myself, yeah, I think I might have considered staying longer.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, I don't know if you know Jessica Allen. She was the captain at Blue
Yeah,
Devils
yeah.
for a few years, and she was the captain 99, and we were dance partners for like everything in 98. And she was like, Michael, you have to come back. She's like, I'll pay your tour fee. I was like, girl, no, I can't.
Oh, that's incredible. Well, you had an incredible and iconic marching career, even though it was just the Blue Devils for 1 year. It's an incredible year, and
Yep.
you did so much of color guard in between. After color guard, like when was that moment of like, I want to do this maybe for a living or dance for a living? What was that moment that clicked in your head?
For me, it was around, I mean, I was marching at the time. I also started taking dance classes over at San Francisco Dance Center, just because, again, I needed to feed,
Yeah, yeah.
myself and this passion. And so I told you about taking classes at DVC, and that there was a point where that wasn't enough. There was a point where I said, I want to dance. And the studies I was doing at the time at the community college was not setting me up. I didn't feel like it was setting me up to have a career in dance. They didn't have, a dance program, and even the dance classes were good because I was learning a lot, but I felt like I needed more. And so I kind of took a step away from school. More fun fact, I started working for Bank of America. I started off as a teller so that I can have a job and have kind of income so that I can go and take classes in San Francisco at the San Francisco Dance Center. I worked my way up through that bank corporate ladder. And after 2 years, I was a foreign exchange investigator for Bank of America in the
Wow.
San Francisco office in the Concord building. And
Wow.
so, because we were West Coast, I would have to be at work at 6 a.m. doing foreign exchange from 6 to 2 because East Coast is already open and the bank's already open. And I would try to get to work at 6 o'clock because sometimes I needed to contact Japan or other countries before they
Wow.
closed that day. Yeah, grown up job, right?
Yeah.
But every day at 2 o'clock, I would leave work, go home, change out of my clothes, and I would go to San Francisco and take classes at San
Wow.
Francisco Dance Center. And that was all the time. I would do that maybe 4 times a week. I met some amazing people in that journey. I met one of my mentors, Ronnie Reddick, based out of San Francisco. He's been there for a long time. I used to take his dance classes. He asked me to be part of a dance group called City Slam back then. And we did a lot of commercial type gigs, corporate parties, band shows, stuff like that with like a live band. Like,
Yeah.
And I remember having that conversation with Ronnie in the car, and I told him, I was like, I want to dance. I want to dance. I want to do this full time. And he simply just said, well, you can.
Mm.
And just hearing someone say that put a lot of perspective for me, and a lot of power to kind of like imagine myself there. I would have never imagined myself as a dancer.
Wow.
Never.
So you just
I
needed
just
that,
knew I loved it.
that permission slip from somebody saying, hey.
From someone, you can. Him saying you absolutely can.
That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah, it was. And so, I kept the studies, of course. I kept studying, taking classes. I was still working full time until eventually I was at Bank of America, and if you're familiar with corporate world, they do sometimes like an anniversary thing where like, everyone gather around.
Yeah.
This month, Susan has been with the bank for 27 years, and everyone claps and she gets like a plaque, or Harry has been in the bank for 50 years. Yay, he gets a bigger plaque. And that's when I said, no, I don't want a plaque.
I saw your eyes like, am I going to be?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, I can't do this. I can't spend my life like this. And so I kind of like went back to my little cubicle, like, I need something here. And this is where timing is so important, because I then got a call from Stacy Johnson.
Wow.
Stacy
Yep.
from Blue Devils, and she's been with Blast for a long time.
Okay.
Yep. Here it is.
Everybody knows somebody.
And then Stacy and I got along really well. We were dance partners in '98 also for the ballad.
Yep.
No one sees me in any of those pictures because it's all about Stacy.
Yes.
But
the hair.
I know,
it's iconic.
she's so gorgeous. But yeah, she called me and she was like, Michael, we're here at Blast at Disney, at California Adventure. And we need a lead. We need a lead. Are you available to drive down to audition? And I was like, yeah, I'm there. I think I drove down to LA that weekend, audition for Martin and Jonathan Schwartz. And I met, the cast that was there. And then I think on my drive back, they kind of offered it to me. And so next morning I turned in my notice, and I never looked back at that corporate world ever again.
That's incredible. So from the moment of you having that little almost panic, after the awards thing and thinking, okay, I can't do this forever. How long roughly was that from when that happened to when Stacy called you?
I feel like it was within like a few days, within a week.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it happened really, really fast.
I'm huge on like visualization and meditation and stuff. And when I hear that someone gave you a little glimpse of like, yeah, you can do this, and you just imagined it, I'm so big on that moment being like, oh, the whole new universe just opened up for Michael to take a whole new path.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's always been there, because I've known Stacy all through life, and she was in London, and she was always telling me to audition, to send in a tape. And I never even like, girl, okay, yeah, maybe, I don't know, but I think a combination of what happened and having that conversation with my mentor, Ronnie, saying you can, kind of like fed into that moment where I have to do it now.
Yeah, opened a whole new door.
That's so cool. And our words are so powerful, like as teachers, being that person to encourage someone is huge, because just like you, that similar situation happened to me where my director said, you can march anywhere. Because I was like, should I go here or should I go here? He's like, you could go to both of them. Like, you can make both of them. And that was the first time where it was like, okay, whether he knew it or not, or was right or wrong, like if you believe it. And I think that's a really important takeaway for everybody listening, that, if you are a teacher, your words, positive or negative, can make such an impact on a student. And that's awesome.
Absolutely. And it's like, just literally you're granting someone their own power. Like, here, I'm letting you know you have this power.
Even the negative version of that too, because I know I was the kid of like, you'll never be able to do that. It's like, I'm gonna show you how. Like, I'll show you I can do it. But it's also depends on the type of kid, because that we can say those kinds of words and it could just demoralize someone's whole experience, and they could never try out. So those words are so important, and you got to take them extremely seriously.
And be careful. Yeah.
What year was that you ended up going to that audition and doing Blast, and how long was that experience?
I was with the company between 2002 and 2005.
Wow. And that also, you did a bunch of different things, not just the California gig with them, huh?
Yeah. I did the California Adventure, and then after a few months, they transferred me to Florida to do the Shockwave
Oh, yeah.
show.
I forgot that was in
Tour.
Florida.
Yeah.
Was that your first time in Florida?
No. I went to Orlando for
Right. Finals was in Orlando that year.
Finals.
Yeah,
98
yeah.
is Orlando.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then I went another time to go visit, a friend. So I had been to Florida a couple times.
And I asked because it's like, I'm wondering when you made that transition to move to Florida. Like during all your experiences, you've done so many things. When was that?
Oh gosh, that was later on. That was like the move to Florida. 3 years of doing Blast. After the third year, I was like, okay, I think I'm done with this for now. This gave me so much. I'm ready to kind of like, flip the chapter a little bit. And I wanted to not go back to California, where I had kind of knew everything, where everything was familiar. Living that life on tour just kind of opens up the world to you, right?
Oh, yeah.
It just makes everything look so much more interesting, and where you came from looks so small.
Right.
And I had that vision in my head of, oh my God, the world is too big. I can't go back to the little corner that I grew up in. And so I said I want to go to the East Coast, but no snow.
Smart.
So no New York, no Chicago, no Boston. Like I heard all these places were amazing. So I was like, all right, let's go to Florida. And I knew I had never been to Miami. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll try Miami. I've been to like Orlando area, Jacksonville, all those places I've been to. So I was like, I want to go to Miami. And from Blast, Amy Stewart, who is now, what's her name now? Amy
Hernandez? Amy Hernandez.
Amy Hernandez.
Oh, it's Stewart now. It's Hernandez
now.
back.
Yeah.
It's Stewart now. Yes. Was like, hey, I have a room in my extra room in my apartment. I'm like, okay, here we go.
Meant to be.
I went over there. Yeah, with my 2 carry-ons, and go to Miami, and that's it. Well, and then I had my car shipped from California.
Wow.
Yeah, with the mind that I was going to be here for maybe a year or two, just to kind of try it out. And it's been 15 years.
Yeah.
Still testing the waters.
So yeah.
You feel like being on tour just kind of gives you a little more courage to just kind of hop around a little bit?
Oh my gosh, yeah. The little things like where you're thrown into a new city for you to figure things out. That's a skill that you don't really think about when you're in your same little corner that you live in. When you're thrown into the world to figure it out, and you're thrown into Japan where you don't know the language, it empowers you to go, you know what, I can take this on. I can do this anywhere. I can get through wherever I go.
Yeah. I love that. Because I'm even thinking about technology at the time, because even when we marched even cadets together in 06, even 07, I didn't have a cell phone. I barely had a Discman. Am I showing my age now, I guess?
You had a beeper, right?
Yeah. But I'm thinking about how much harder it would have been then without Google Maps, without being able to see when the next audition is, like at the tip of your fingers, without having that network at the palm of your hand. That takes even more courage to just get out there and figure it out.
Yeah. Or, your people skills, being able to kind of like talk to the people, the locals. And stuff.
In person, not on your cell phone too. Not the text, not the swipe, not the disconnected version, but the hello, I'm Michael. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Wow, that's huge. Let's go into like your, I guess the Miami life now. Just like, what was that transition like when you actually got to Miami? You're now living there. You're now checking out the scene. Was there a culture shock? Was there a community shock? What was that like?
Miami. I came to Miami to dance. I came to Miami to check out the dance scene. I didn't know really anyone except for Amy. And so I was like, all right, what's the best way to meet people? So I got like a serving job in South Beach
Mhm.
at a place called Cafeteria on Lincoln
Oh, we know
Road.
the
They have
cafeteria.
they're from New York. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
from New
yeah.
York, but they had opened a cafeteria on Lincoln Road. And
Wow.
so I worked there and I met a bunch of like locals. I started to kind of look up classes and I mean, it's a pretty small circle of dancers, luckily in Miami at the time.
Mhm.
And so I took a dance class from Glenn Packard, and this girl Janet Jones was there, and she was opening a talent agency. It was called DDO back then. At the end of class, she approached me and she was like, "Hey, where are you from?" And so we got to talking, and she was like, "Hey, do you want to come and do this gig?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'm free." So she asked me to meet at the Intercontinental Hotel in downtown
Mhm.
for a rehearsal. Don't know these artists at all, but she said the call time was 11. Everyone be there 11. Me, I'm from the West Coast. I'm like, I got to be there at 10:30. So I'm there at 10:30. I'm stretching. I'm like, ready to go. 11, still no one. 11:15. I'm like, am I at the right place?
Oh.
11:30, people start to kind of trickle in. And then a bunch of dancers started to kind of like come around the same time, half an hour after call time. It's very
That
Miami.
Miami time.
And I'm sitting at a corner and this Asian girl comes running towards me and she sits next to me and she goes, "Brother," because we're like the only Asians in all of Miami. Her name is Amanda Tay, who
I
is
knew
my
where that
best
was
There it
friend.
going.
is. Yeah.
I didn't know that was the first interaction. Was brother, because you guys still do that. That's hilarious.
Never met me before. She ran
Wow.
right over to me, and so yeah, we've been brother sister ever since. And the artist was Wisin Yandel, and it was for the Premio Lo Nuestro, and it was like 30 dancers, and so that's when I met like the dance community in one gig. And ever since then, I've been able to kind of book different types of jobs. And then somewhere in this line, I'm sleeping in on my weekends, right? Because I'm serving and I'm dancing.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
One Saturday morning, Amy calls me at like 9 a.m. She's like, "Michael, I'm at this Braddock rehearsal and we need someone to kind of just teach an audition dance to the kids." I'm like, "Girl, what do you mean? Like, what?"
It's 9 a.m.
It's 9 o'clock. She's like, "Michael, please, please, please." So I'm like, okay, I love you. I'm gonna go. So I go to the location she sends me to, and it's a winter guard rehearsal, but it's like half indoor, half outdoor. And this is
Yeah.
where I first meet April Gilligan.
There it is.
April
And-
Gilligan.
Yeah, April Gilligan and Daniel Riley, who was
Mhm.
also there.
Wow.
And so I taught class. I had fun, with the kids. And then from there, April was like, "I need to
Mine.
have you
Yeah.
here." Yeah.
Yep.
And here,
And
here,
then
here.
and then Daniel Riley, who had just moved the same time
Oh,
and just
wow.
took over Stoneman Douglas
Oh, from
Mm.
Indiana.
just right
yeah,
before
yeah.
I did.
hmm
Mhm.
Yeah. He was like, I need you to come to Stoneman and do the movement there. And so that's where my color guard kind of like
Teaching career. Yeah, that's like the.
teaching career,
start.
yeah, pretty much started because I didn't have any plans to do any kind of teaching. I just came here to dance.
That's
Pretty
incredible.
much so.
Wow.
And some iconic groups throughout that.
Yeah.
And you guys together have created so many brands, with the Braddocks, with the. Correct me if I'm wrong, but did you do like the Hurricanettes or something? I remember when I moved down, you and April were doing something down in Miami together.
Around the same time, April was the director of the Hurricanettes over at University of Miami, and they needed someone to coach the dance line over there. And so she asked me to kind of be part of that team, and I was with them for I think like 6-7 years.
Wow.
So saying yes to Amy for what you thought would be a one-time, a favor basically. Okay, I'll come in and help you out. And then you meet all these people, build a network, and it just took off.
Yeah, it's been amazing. And I love that I was able to kind of meet different circles of people to kind of keep myself balanced. So to this day, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't just kind of go into one avenue. I make sure that all this is balanced out, like even in my career and my mental state. Like I need to be able to kind of like touch these parts of me because they're all part of me. They're all part of me and who I am and what makes my DNA. And so being able to kind of have all of that has been amazing.
Let's talk about that a little bit because you've had such an iconic career with color guard, with dance, and now we're talking about the teaching start of that. And to see where that's gone throughout the years is incredible because your run is just second to none. You know, you've done so many things, you've been in so many rooms, you've taught so many styles. For your teaching career, how would you explain your choreography style, and what do you look for when you first arrive to a new group, whether they be new to your style or just new to choreography altogether?
I think for me, working with and choreographing for drum corps is a specialty type of stage to choreograph for. You know, it's not so much about me as a choreographer. It's about the performers, and it's about what we can get them to do, what we can get them to express, and what we can pull out of them. Even from like a color guard standpoint, let's say just start with color guard. You know, when I'm working with a color guard out there, I know they're not professional dancers. Do you know what I'm saying? So obviously I have to figure out ways that will make them look good, and what will look good on their bodies. And I think that's the part where I started to embrace my training as a dancer and be able to pull from my vocabulary as a dancer to gather body movement and body lines that's going to be easy to read for their level.
Wow.
And their training. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So because I wasn't just stuck on the ballet or the jazz, I was able to kind of like, okay, let's incorporate something a little bit more natural, more urban, more street, more Afro. Maybe they'll be able to kind of hang on to a little bit more. So when I'm choreographing for color guards, obviously we want them to learn skills and tricks and big power moves and all that stuff and stretch. But as far as choreographing, it has always been making the kids look good. It's always been making the performers look good. And then same concept, working with the horn line. You know, I know for me as a late mover, hip hop and pop music was easy to relate to versus let's start with pliés. You know, so
Smart.
if I can get them to just move with me, just feel me, you know, just groove with me,
Right.
then from there I can build off of it and go into exploring new things. But creating that trust, that initial trust of like, okay, we're good, you know what I'm saying? We're just gonna move. We'll add things on as time comes and when we're ready. But I think just the approach of let's just move. And moving is natural, right? Moving is natural. We're moving right now.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And so letting them know that it's okay and that it's safe empowers them to kind of like want to learn and take on more.
Yeah, and that's so important for, you know, being a horn player. I can relate to that of being like, it's a little awkward if you're not used to dancing or moving your body in a certain way, and for you to just say it's going to be a safe space and we're going to, you know, walk through this together and we're going to be able to do some cool stuff, like it kind of you can let your guard down and just, you know, you can just roll with it.
And I think again, making it as natural as possible, you know, because if I was to go out there and start teaching them, you know, straight arms and tendus right away, that's a lot. Versus, you know, all right, let's just do some jumping jacks. We're going to jump for 8 counts, and then we're going to go into this thing to the ground. You know what I'm saying? That is not as scary, I think, for someone who doesn't have a movement background.
I love that. That's so important to have that safety, that safe zone. You know, I remember teaching with you for the first few times, and you're almost laughing at a student so that they could laugh at themselves, so they can laugh at you doing something that they did. And then it's just like this environment of just like, it's all good, man. We're in this together.
And just the things that you end up writing for the groups just to watch is really incredible. Like when you were at Crown, I was like, yes, Michael's here. Like, and it was amazing to see what you could do with them, or any group, West Broward, anywhere that I've, had the pleasure to be around you, just to watch your process with the kids and how much fun they're having. Even if they feel like super awkward at first, they're still having fun. And it's just really cool to see the development. And as their skills get better, you're able to add on more layers, and it's just, it's such a cool product. And like, when you see a Michael group, like, oh, that's Michael. That has Michael written all over it, and in a great way. It's just so cool to see.
Yeah, oh, thank you.
Thank you. That's why I was so curious about your style and how you would explain it, because I was like, what is it? How is it? But hearing you explain that you just basically nitpick all the beautiful things you've learned along your journey and now are able to make your own thing. I think that's why we notice those Michael groups, because we know a lot of different choreographers, and no knock to them because they're all amazing in their own rights. Yep. But a lot of people have different styles, or if you have a certain type of show, you know who to call to do that. But you're kind of the one-stop shop of everything, because what you're going to make is just a moment for that group, not necessarily a style that they're trying to perfect.
Right. And like you said, taking their level into account, which I think is really cool, because some people don't do that, and it's more selfish, I think, in a way, like, this is what we're going to learn, and we're just going to learn it.
Yeah, because I just created this best movement, and you're going to do it.
But you seem to tailor it to the body type, to the level of experience. And in turn, by doing that, you can just make a great product, and they feel successful, and it's effective. And I think
it's still awesome. Hard.
Right, yeah, totally.
But you're still pushing them to their next level, not to your next level, but to each individual group's next level.
Thank you. And Crown was a really good example of taking the level up for them, because after a couple of years of being at Crown, they kind of figured out how I move and how my body moves. And then that's where I kind of learned to kind of hand it over to them a little bit, because I know what I can do with my body, because I've been dancing for a long time. Now, you guys, I know what you can do, but let's figure out what we don't know you can do, Right. And so a lot of times I had a lot of fun at Crown, because there were moments where I would literally do a piece of movement and I would go, can you guys do that? They're like, yeah, we can. And they would stand up tall, like, yeah, we can,
okay.
Or even if they're like, there's a moment where they're like, they're playing a little bit. I'd be like, oh, I don't know if you can do that playing. And they were like, yeah, we can.
That's all I needed to hear. I don't know if you can. And
I would hand it over to them. Or I'd say, like, Michael Clash doesn't think you guys should do that. He doesn't think you can play. Yeah. And oh my goodness. That's when they were like, what do you mean? What? And they would be practicing it, and it's like, okay, well, I didn't know you can. You know what I'm saying? You proved to me. So as a choreographer, I wasn't pushing anything. I was challenging them.
Little did you know, though, that challenge revolutionized the activity. Like, that small back and forth just went, boom, game changer. Now everyone's trying a different version of what you created, and it was a piggyback. It was you and me and you and me, and let's see. I bet you can't. Oh, watch me. I bet you I can. And then the whole game changed that season and those seasons, because we know those crowns. That is a specific style, a specific group, and they push the envelope in a way that I never saw that acceleration from, like, when you were there.
Yeah, it's like, I guess we can't stand still and play anything now.
Nope.
The bar has been been raised, and like what you're doing at Vanguard is, if I was in drum corps at this time, I don't know if I could. It was just starting.
I can't do that stuff.
We had Curtis Ullman and
incredible.
Curtis Amazing, and that was my last year at Cadets, and or last couple of years we started like doing more dance and less like band body, but it's still Cadets at that time, but like that was like really starting to push the envelope for us at that time, like 2006. And, I did it, but it was like a little bit of a challenge. And then just to see what it's progressed to, people are doing backflips and all the crazy stuff. Like, it's incredible.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the Vanguard thing, that's just like such a blessing. It was such a blessing. It is such a blessing to be able to kind of step into a room filled with so much passionate musicians, that were so eager. It wasn't like that in the beginning, because they weren't really moving that much.
Yeah.
But again, for me, it was like, I have to just gain their trust. I have to gain their trust.
Yep.
And once I had their trust, it was just like, all right, where do we go? Where do we go? And it's been so much fun. And it's literally them that inspired me to kind of keep working towards, all right, what else can we do? Kind of thing.
So now you're going pro. Now we went through your journey of like becoming a pro dancer and through your ridiculous start to the Braddock and like that random thing that started this career. Now you're a professional and now you're creating all these incredible moments with all your friends. But let's go back to the body for a second. And how did your body react to having that job mentality in corporate from Bank of America and still doing your side hustle to moving, and now you're serving and still doing your side hustle, but now you're doing your side hustle as a career? Did that same hustle mentality and the physical, like the hardships physically that you had to go through, did that change at all while you became pro choreographer? Did that take a different toll on your body now that you're teaching professionally versus doing all the corporate stuff or the serving stuff?
One thing that I've learned to do is constantly listen to my body, listen to my body's needs. And we can talk about this a little bit more. But when I started to focus more on choreography, that's when I started to kind of hurt more. Because one, I'm not training anymore. I'm not doing the exercises and I'm not going to classes. But here I am creating, and I'm creating for really talented performers.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm right next to them or in front of them doing these moves and not warming up properly and not stretching properly and not doing my cardio. And, because I don't have to anymore. When I'm doing a warm up, I'm watching you warm up. When we're doing a stretch, I'm fixing your body, I'm fixing their bodies, and I'm walking around the room fixing. And all of a sudden, Michael has to make choreography up now. And now Michael has to roll in and out of the ground and has to do all these things. And so that's when I started to like really hurt a lot. And so I needed to kind of like stop for a second and listen to my body. Like, what do I need? Okay, I need to warm up today extra. Or on my downtime, I needed to go back and maybe just sit in my living room and maybe do some strengthening exercises and find my alignment, or maybe even just meditate and stretch. And to me, stretching is more meditative than something that needs to be done. Like I need to get my splits. No, stretching has always been meditative. It feels good to release that tension and to find where you're tense and go, oh, that part of my body does not like me right now. Let me give that some loving.
Yeah.
And kind of being in tune and listening to this. And you're doing yoga, so you get this. And so I think when we teach people and our students to stretch, it needs to be more about, okay, what do we need? You tell me what we need and we will find it and we will target it and we will release it. And so that whole transition was difficult for me. It was pretty painful because I'm not in shape like I was when I was dancing full time. And then here I am creating, trying to do big power moves with the kids. And so I was hurting a lot.
Wow. I guess I never thought about it that way, because the choreographer comes in, they just do it. And, you're taking in all the instruction and watching the moves and, watching you dance, I would never know you're in pain because you look incredible. You're teaching a routine, but you have that inner struggle going on. And it, at that point, it's your job to get this information out but you have to deal with that aftermath.
Yeah. And even thinking about it as a student, when I would see the choreographer come out the car or whatever, it's like, oh, they've been they stretch all day, or
they're fine.
Yeah,
this
they're
is
fine.
What they do.
And then they come in and execute just as well as what you anticipate, but you never really think about they taught 5 other groups today. Oh, they've been in their car driving all day. Oh,
yeah.
And you never really think about the toll it takes on the body.
Yeah, it can be a lot. It can be a lot. The other thing too is, as a dancer, you're used to working in pain. Do you know what I'm saying? You're used to, that hurts. You're used to, my back is not right today. Oh, my hamstring's tight. You're used to dealing with that. But I think as you get older, that can't be normal anymore. It can't.
Yeah.
It can't.
Listen to this, young instructors. Listen to this, young instructors. This is a gem right here.
So when you're young, you're used to, I danced really hard and so I'm sore. But then you're going to realize there's a difference between that I danced hard sore versus I'm sore because my body's not in shape kind of thing.
Wow.
Yeah, we used to joke about that, the off-season body, when you're marching, or even the horn player side of us was like, we would march, we'd get skinny all summer, you take all winter to bulk up, really get fat, and then you get back to the summer, and then it's time to get skinny again, and then you keep doing that year after year, and then you age out. And then it keeps going, and then you're not doing that summer anymore,
right.
And then you just end up in this routine that is not what you actually want to do for your body, but a routine that you set yourself up for failure earlier in your career.
Yep.
You do stretching. Is that a daily thing, or is there any daily habits or routines or workout regimen that you do now that keep you just as young and fresh and flexible?
I don't really have a routine. Like, I am just as ADD as a dancer as I am with my daily routines. But what I do still do, and I try to teach my students this, is learn to listen. And we kind of started talking about this earlier. Learn to listen to what you need. Learn to listen to what your body needs. Learn, look at yourself in the mirror. What do I need? Kind of thing. And so I lift weights because I think it's important to be strong, but there's points where I'm like, I won't lift weights for a while. Like, I've been able to lift weights since this whole thing started, the whole
crazy
pandemic.
Yeah.
And so just listening, doing cardio. I hate doing cardio, but you know what? My body needs it. I need to kind of get my heart rate up, and just knowing what the purpose is of that thing that you're saying you need.
That's huge.
And being able to kind of focus on what you want to get from that specific activity or exercise.
So
and going,
really
I'm doing this for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Or some days where I'm just like, you know what? Ooh, things are really tense. Like, I feel like my neck is tense or my mind is tense. Then that I know I need to stretch. 30-minute stretch of just, this is about this, and really getting in tune into what your body needs. So I mean, I'll go through, sometimes this process takes a few weeks or a couple months, and I'll make a routine out of that. And then when I feel like, okay, that's good, then I try to listen to what else is out of balance in me. Then maybe if I'm stretching more for a month, then I'm going, I think I need to get back into lifting weights. I'm feeling a little weak. So it's a constant balance act, right? Yeah. Your whole life, and just kind of constantly learning to listen to what you need and figuring out how to get that. I feel like creating those, like, I'm going to work out Monday, Wednesday, Friday at the gym, kind of sets you up to fail sometimes, or to, because once you miss a couple of workouts, then you already are beating yourself up for it, but what were you doing? What were you doing that for? What was your goal? Kind of thing.
Intention. Yeah. That's huge.
We recently experienced that. Actually, we were doing a program, at home, and, however many weeks in, I think one of us was feeling, a lot of pain somewhere, and the other person was feeling a lot of pain somewhere else. But it's like, that almost that drum corps mentality of like, no, we're going to push through it, because what's going to happen, we've been going for this many days. I don't want to start over. But there's like a fine line between being smart and, pushing too far. So really, I love that, like, listening to your body. And that doesn't mean like giving up or being weak, right? It means just being smart and taking care of yourself and spending that time still, but doing something that's going to
Yeah.
help you and benefit you more.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you mentioned something that made me really stop for a second. Because you said, look in the mirror and ask yourself, what do I need? And the intentionality behind that, we didn't do that when we stopped that program. It wasn't a moment of like, what do we need? It was like, what is the goal? The goal is to finish. But there was no intentionality behind that. There was no purpose behind, well, why do you want to finish? And we never actually stopped and said, what does my body need right now?
Right.
We just like, what are we going to push our body through right now?
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Again, because like the older we get, there's the good hurt and then
Yeah.
there's the not good hurt.
Mhm.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So we
Right.
have to be very careful, you know. We want to kind of push against time and
Yeah.
say that we're going to be young forever. But reality is we're not. And
I'm
so
still convinced you have like a secret fountain of youth
Yeah, there's something.
hidden somewhere that you're not telling anybody about.
You're in incredible shape all the
Yeah,
time. So be like, no,
Benjamin
I don't
Button
do
over
much.
here.
no. One, laughter, always laugh, you know,
Mhm.
like
It's your ab workout.
Right.
yeah, absolutely. Actually, what's funny is like this whole thing started and I just started eating everything.
Same.
Like
Yeah.
I'm just here all day, you know, and I just eat everything in the pantry. I have a rice cooker
Mhm.
and it was working overtime. That's a lot
I
of
love that.
carbs. And so I had to like, okay, reassess. I'm like, okay,
Ugh.
what's going on here?
It-
You don't feel good. You don't look good. What do we need? You know, kind of thing. And like, you can only do so much like with these workouts at home.
Mhm.
Sometimes it gets a little like redundant. So I kind of explored like the whole keto diet for a
Okay.
little bit, just because I needed to give myself a structure
Yeah.
and stop eating the whole, cabinet.
The cabinet
So I
diet.
did,
The cabinet diet.
yeah, the cabinet diet, right? So I did that for a couple of weeks. So that kind of allowed me to just have a structure. I'm not a huge fan of it. Just I feel like it's a lot of fat.
Mhm.
If
It is.
anyone is kind of studied, it's a lot of fat. So I'm kind of like, that can't be that good for me later on. I don't know. I haven't
Right.
looked, but I just did enough so
Yeah.
that I can have a little bit of structure. I've been doing like these like YouTube workouts at home.
Mm. Yeah,
I
and
think it's
I think
someone
that's
else to
the
do it.
important part of it is because you said assess a few times in there, and it's taking that time, assess, but you also adjusted. You assessed and assess again, adjust again, assess. Okay, let me try keto, and then adjust to that diet, and then assess. Is that working for me? And if not, adjust. I love that. Some of us get too scared to adjust sometimes, or we make a plan. It's like, let's commit to that plan. That's my problem sometimes. It's like, I'm gonna do this. I said I was gonna do this. I'm gonna get it done. And I don't take the time to actually look back and make sure that it's moving me in the direction that I'm actually trying to go.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what you need. Sometimes you need to commit to something to get to your goal. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
That's okay too.
What advice would you give for a new instructor out there that's with either their first few groups or just starting this professional career of either being a color guard instructor or a dancer? What advice would you give to someone fresh starting in the game?
Take your time. Take your time. Don't rush. Don't get caught up in the label of a professional anything or caught up in being a choreographer or an instructor. Focus on being a student even more than ever. I think sometimes people get caught up in the idea that I am a teacher now or I am a professional this, that they kind of box themselves off from learning and growing. I know personally growing up, I didn't call myself a choreographer. Even after a few years of the whole Braddock thing
Wow.
in teaching. Yeah, it was just such a word that I held way up there, because I respected so many great choreographers that it's way up there. And I just know I'm teaching, I'm creating moves, I'm teaching classes.
Yeah.
But to put a label of that, I think some people get they try to get there too fast. I say learn. Let the industry tell you when you're a professional. You shouldn't tell people I'm a professional. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Let
yeah.
your work and the people around you and the people that are admiring your work tell you that you're a professional. And until then, stay humble and keep honing in your craft and keep learning.
Yeah, it's really easy, I think, to get caught up in this is what I do and you know, you need to stay humble. Staying humble is so important. And when you're humble, I feel like you're open to just learn more. Learning and listening, like you said, listening to others and absorbing what's going on around you is like paramount in becoming who you want to become.
Absolutely. And I still learn, you know what I'm saying? Like I still love learning. And when I'm not learning, that's part of like my inner balance. And I'm like, oh, I need I need information. I need to be re-inspired to do, you know, pick something else up. So I'm always going to say that I'm a student first.
I love that.
We're learning right now, you know, the times that we're in. We're learning right now how to deal, how to get information out, how to receive information, how to deal with people. You know, you have to constantly be in that mode to like take information in and then be able to regurgitate it your own way.
So since we're talking about that and like kind of where you're at now and what you're learning now, what advice would you give for the seasoned vets, like the ones who've been doing this for a long time, who are now called those professionals, or the conversations you're having in your world right now? What is some advice you would give to that advanced actual choreographer professional that might be having a hard time within the world we live in right now?
I wish I had the answers. Do you know what I'm saying? I think we're all, especially at this time, we're all just trying to figure it out. We're all just staying aware, or trying to stay aware and be sensitive to what turns might be happening. As much as you can, just be ready for whatever that turn is. Me personally, there's just so many questions surrounding me right now. And so, you know, I do get a little bit of anxiety sometimes because it's so much uncertainty. But I find that it's comforting to talk to each other. I find it's comforting to talk to other artists and see where they're at, and being okay with not being okay, I guess, you know. I know that when I confide to someone and say I'm not doing well, that already feels better because it's facing the truth versus dodging it and kind of, you know, not wanting to deal with it. And even that little bit of step allows you to go, okay, now that I got through that and I got past that, let's reassess.
I love
kind
that.
of thing.
I love that.
And the other thing that is actually Jody. I took her a yoga class from her online, and I was not doing okay, you know. And she said something that completely resonated with me, especially in these times. You know, we have to remind ourselves. She didn't said it in different words, but for me, how I'm kind of taking it is we have to remind ourselves that we are bigger and we have more to offer than the four walls that we're stuck in. Wow. Sometimes because we're stuck in these walls that we're letting these things push us in. And so sometimes we have to just go, stop for a second. I am a brother. I am a son. I am an artist. I am this. I am this. I am this. I am this. I am way past these walls. And so just kind of like that reminder of you have so much to offer and you're way more than what you're being able to give right now is a great reminder that these four walls ain't gonna stop you.
That's beautiful.
That's so important, Michael. That's gonna help so many people. I'm hearing that and
knowledge.
it's like, shout out to Jody. Shout out to Jody. That's great.
Yep.
Yes.
And that's the thing. It's being aware. That was the big gem I got out of that. Being aware, but not only of the environment, but of self and how you fit in that environment and how you mean more to your environment than your daily or your moment might actually mean to you at the time.
Yeah,
so big.
And in the importance of connecting body to mind. I know we're discussing body here, but my body's stuck. My body's stuck here, and so I have to use my mind to let my body be free. Otherwise,
you feel like you're in a jail. Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of the world, let's talk about the Breakdown Camp a little bit. Yep. What is that? How did it get started? What are you guys offering out to the community, and how can we get involved?
The Breakdown Camp. I've always wanted to do a movement camp. whether it's for color guard or dancers. But the past couple of years, we've seen a surge in people challenging their bodies while playing an instrument, or musicians who are challenging their bodies more. I think it's great. I think it's beautiful. I think it's so much fun to watch. And then I started watching videos of like high school kids doing Santa Clara Vanguard choreography. Ooh. And at first I was like, oh, that's cool. Then I was like, oh wait, hold on, who's teaching them? You know, that could be dangerous. I mean, they did it good, but I don't know what other kids are trying a move that they're not prepared to, or no one has the tools to kind of teach them how to get through some of these things. And so I was like, okay, well, I have to get as much of this information out to people. And so the idea was to have this camp go to a couple of different cities, and you can bring your students to us, and we will cover basic fundamentals of movement and, you know, help them create a culture of musicians that love and trust themselves when it's time to move. On top of that, there's a lot of band directors who get a little bit scared of the idea of movement and visual. And it's not their fault. You know, they didn't go to school to teach tendus and pliés and how to do a roll. It's not their fault. And so being able to offer something where, here, we're going to teach your kids these set of fundamentals, and we're also going to teach you how to teach it, how to correct it, how to fix it, what to look for, what to say, what muscles to connect kind of together, and giving them just enough tools so they can be confident in front of their kids when it comes to talking about movement for the body. So that the whole idea was to create like a 3-day event where the kids come in, they learn movement, everything from basic fundamentals to acting to traveling, all the fun stuff, you know, learning choreography. And at the same time, taking the directors by the hand and making sure that they have the tools that they can stand in front of their kids.
That's so cool and so important, because once they're the directors again, if they don't have, you know, some of that foundational knowledge, that stuff's going to fade away. So it's like empowering those band directors to feel comfortable and to, you know, continue helping their program grow. Once the course is over, I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and you take them by the hand. Like, I know that was important for me working with you, as you guiding me through not only what you were thinking, but what you were doing and how to communicate it to the group that we were teaching. That, to me, I took home, wrote some notes, because even key phrases, key terminology from what you're using, but not even you going too deep into your world. It was like, this is how I'm going to communicate this to this type of person in your group, and here's how we're going to do this together with you guys throughout the journey. That's huge. I didn't realize you guys were offering so much to so many levels of people and groups. Right. That's cool.
Yeah. And also the other thing that I noticed is, you know, at Santa Clara, we have these members that are just powerhouse members, all around. And the audition process happens, and we have these young adults that are beasts on their horns, but they come from a school where they didn't move. And it just breaks our hearts to say, we can't take you, even though you're an amazing musician. And it's not that kid's fault that their school didn't offer a visual program that allowed them to be able to kind of have the skills to audition for a Santa Clara Vanguard. Wow. So, you know, like a combination of those things was like, okay, we have to do more. We have to do better in making sure that these kids have the tools that they need.
Yeah, because you became a resource now. You know, let's say that band director of that kid that's never moved doesn't want to move, and that's just what they do. Now you can get into their city or get them online, and they actually come into your area and are learning from a whole new different world, even if they're not necessarily offered that opportunity back at home. That's big. I love that.
That's the goal. And then COVID happened.
But
no,
but
okay.
You adjusted.
No, but it's been fun.
Yeah, absolutely. You assessed.
Stop.
And you adjusted.
Reset. Yes. We have to.
And so you guys are doing it online now. I'm watching all that stuff online happen, and it's so cool seeing your rooms fill up, seeing the people doing the choreography in different places, and you guys being able to share that because you can see the true impact it has on our community.
And what's kind of been interesting is, like we've all worked with high school band kids. You give them a piece of choreography or you teach them a skill. And when you're at that field or that gym or the cafeteria and you're learning something, they get a little hesitant about doing it because their peers are watching or they don't want anyone laughing or someone's giggling. And so they hold back. Well, now they're doing it in their living room where no one can see, or they're doing it in their bedroom where no one's going to judge them. And so the idea of them having their walls are totally down. I feel like I've watched some kids just totally open up completely and try new things.
Wow.
And so now when you ask them to do, hey, here's a piece of choreography, learn it. Can you send me a video of you doing it? They're not going to send you a bad video.
No.
Right?
Yeah. That's awesome.
So without even asking for it, they probably did that rep 50 times to get you a good video. They wouldn't have done that 50 times at rehearsal.
No, we begged them to go home, try this in front of the mirror or you know what, but now they actually create that space at home with you. Tell mom, go away. Tell dad, go away. Little brother, shut up in the room because this is my space, my zone, and I need my walls to be down. That's huge.
Yeah.
And this generation kids they're used to this camera in front of them. They're used to videotaping, so jump onto their train and kind of, allow them to kind of give back to you.
I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode with Michael Rosales. Make sure to visit thebreakdowncamp.com for more information on the amazing classes and workshops being offered. You can also follow them on Instagram and Facebook at The Breakdown Camp.
You can follow Michael on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at mrosales007. Also, be sure to check out his YouTube channel, which has lots of dance classes for all levels, as well as workout videos.
Make sure to subscribe to Mind, Body, and Pockets on Apple Podcast and Spotify. We'd really appreciate it if you could leave a review and share it with a friend.
All of our episodes can also be found on our YouTube channel, so make sure to subscribe and enjoy all the bonus content that comes along with it.
Check the description below for links to everything we just mentioned, and thank you so much for all the support. Until next time, keep taking steps to level up your life.